I've always whinged a bit that I don't have much of a family. I don't mean I don't think much of them. I mean there aren't many of them. Oh, God blimey, well done.
Oops, you broke it, Gracie.
Oh, it's all right. Oh. I was an only child, brought up basically by my father and his mother, my granny, who lived with us the whole time. What? No brothers, no sisters, no cousins that I knew, nothing like that. No extended family. Yeah, don't worry.
Never mind.
Right. Look, I hang them up when we do that. If they break, I put them up there like that. And I sort of sensed that I didn't know the truth, even about the people that I did remember.
Both you and Mum are pretty crap, actually, about handing on the family history, you know.
Well, we didn't know it.
Well, that's the excuse, yeah.
Oh, thank you very much.
I can't remember, or I don't know, you know. We have to kind of probe you into sort of giving us information.
Now, I'm in a position to actually be curious. And what I'm absolutely, totally curious about is the stuff when I was little and just before that, you know. Who the dickens was the rest of my family? I haven't a clue.
Bill Oddie lives in Hampstead, North London. He has 3 daughters, 3 grandchildren, and has built a tight-knit family unit around himself.
Oh, lovely, good. Oh, that's what I like. If you can frighten the children more, I get more cuddles.
He's just having a lovely cuddle with Grandad, eh?
But recently, something happened which has forced him to confront his past.
About 4 years ago, I was struck down, as I suppose you'd say, by what would have been called a nervous breakdown in the old days, but actually was clinical depression. And having recovered from that, I had a second bout about a year and a half later. Just discuss it with me, it's all right. You want what? Huh? Limousine?
Nothing's going in your mouth.
You want what? Mummy?
As Bill tried to understand what caused his depression, he started to explore his family history in more detail.
What's all that about? Having had therapy, it rapidly emerged that I had the classic background to create some sort of depressive reaction at some stage in life, which was that I was sort of abandoned by my mother. I had no mother at home. I say, in my memory of being a child at any stage.
Throughout his childhood, Bill's mother, Lillian, suffered from what was diagnosed as schizophrenia. From the onset of her illness until her death 14 years ago, Bill saw his mum just a handful of times.
If anybody had asked me, what do you think of your mother? I would just say, I hate her. Not because I knew what she was, but and what I was really saying was I hated the story I'd got, which is she didn't care enough about you, you know, whether she was ill or not. You don't think that when you're a kid. You just think you've been abandoned, or you just feel you've been abandoned.
Now, he's decided to try and find out what really happened to his mother.
This isn't curiosity, this journey, it's self-help.
Bill is heading for the Birmingham suburb of Quinton. This is the first time he's been back to his childhood home in 40 years.
When I look back at my childhood, I only have about 4 images which involve my mother. They are like a scene out of a movie. You know, they're like, here's the best of, this is the trailer, as it were. but I never did see the film. This really does feel like coming home. Oak Tree Crescent. What a verdant name, eh? On the edge of Birmingham. Quinton, Birmingham 32, as was then, but presumably got some other postcode. And this was home to me. Whether it was home to my mother, I'm still not absolutely sure. Maybe it's going to jog my memory when I go in there, but this was the bit I really liked, because this was the cricket. Oh, not quite an oval, it's a circle, isn't it? Painted on there, or chalked on there, would be the wickets, and it was on this very cricket ground that I scored 423, I think it was, once, into the next gardens of 6. It's only about 3 yards away, so it wasn't that difficult. And this, number 8, this was the family home for quite a long time, really, 1948 to about 1959-60. I have to say it's a great deal sprucer and cleaner than when I was here, because, to be absolutely honest, I don't have that happy memories of inside this house.
Bill lived here with his father Harry and his granny Emily from the age of 6 to 18.
For most of the time, I'm afraid this was a complete, I was going to say shit heap, actually. I probably shouldn't do that, should I? But it was a complete tip, this room. It really was a junk room. There was just stuff all over the place. I can't even remember what, but it was a mess. We didn't come in here at all. And this was, well, quite frankly, I think it was the result of my dad allowing, if you like, my granny, his mum, to sort of dominate the whole place. And so the whole place, to a point, became, well, it's a weird thing to say, but like an old lady's house. Dad and I could never, ever have a man-to-man talk, you know. It just didn't happen. And occasionally we wanted to, but Granny would simply not go. She'd interfere. Upstairs, and the layout much the same, 3 bedrooms and a bathroom. One memory of my mum. This bathroom, I presume it's more or less the same thing. I remember coming back from school, walking in here. As a matter of fact, I think the bath was the other way, but that really doesn't matter. And there, sitting in the bath, happily having a bath, was this large woman who just sort of, oh, hello, you know, completely naked, which, frankly, I wasn't that used to at that stage in life. And that was my mum. And I remember feeling uncomfortable and sort of scuttling out. And I simply didn't know she was there. Now, that implies that she wasn't actually living there, that she just sort of come in, settled down, having a bath, in I went. What happened after that, I have no idea. But I've got these funny, isolated pictures like that. Trevor.
Nice to see you after that many years.
Do you want to go and shooting practice on your lawn, wasn't it?
Trevor Bing used to live next door and played in the same football team as Bill.
I remember your mum coming and playing the piano.
Really?
Yeah, because your mum was a good pianist, wasn't she?
News to me.
No, your mum was a good pianist.
Seriously is news to me.
No, very good pianist, your mum, honestly. Or it seemed to be us, she'd come on Friday nights.
Yes.
And go on back on Sunday nights.
Well, that's kind of as I remember it, and I was just remembering that one of my very few, well, bad memories, to be honest, was her, I don't know whether you were with me, but I'm pretty sure we were playing out here, or a bunch of us were, and she presumably was being taken back in a taxi or something like that, and I just remember her shouting and screaming and fighting and presumably, you know, not wanting to go, and I just sort of...
Bill, they came for people, didn't they? Not in a taxi, in like a black Mariah, was it not?
I think it probably was.
If
Again,
I'm honest, but we didn't know that at the time.
No.
And I remember your dad having a problem with your mother trying to get her to go, and that must have been the same day as what you've remembered is what I've remembered.
Because I only remember once, and I can
only remember once.
Yeah.
And I think your dad had to send for the police.
Actually.
And it was a forcible to get her into the van to go away.
I think you're right, I wouldn't have remembered that if you hadn't said that. But actually, if I can, I can almost envisage that day. I really can. We were here, car over there.
That's it.
And I think you're right. There was another car.
Thinking about it now,
police,
and I think that was the last time we saw your mum.
Bill's mother Lillian was taken here, Barnsley Hall Psychiatric Hospital on the outskirts of Birmingham. In the 1950s, she was one of 150,000 residents in mental institutions throughout the country, more than 10 times the number detained today. The hospital closed in 1995 and is now the centre of an executive housing estate.
Yes, well, thus our memory is totally obliterated. It's quite clearly this place has been completely redeveloped. Funnily enough, there isn't a blue plaque saying this used to be, well, what do we call it? In those days, let's face it, it was an asylum, a sanatorium, the loony bin, something like that.
Bill's mum was one of 1,000 patients at Barnsley Hall. Over half were women. 2 former nurses remember looking after Lillian while she was here.
Oh, Bill, lovely. Oh, lovely to see you.
Oh, that's very sweet.
I looked after your mother.
So I gather.
Yes. Yeah. But,
What's your name and what's your name?
Mine's Ellen Prescott.
Ellen?
I looked after your mother.
Yeah. And you?
Mamie Collins.
Mamie and Ellen. Yeah. How much do you actually remember Lillian as a person? I know there were many, many people.
Lillian was about your height.
Yeah.
And she got dark hair.
Not by the time I met her, but it was...
Shame.
She was
And
very jolly, always happy.
Yes.
Always happy.
And she used to sing.
Yeah.
I used to hear her singing. I'm sure it
They
was
had
her.
a piano on the ward, didn't they?
Oh, every ward had a lovely grand piano.
Well, was Lillian here a long time, though? I mean, it was many years, wasn't it?
Years ago. I should think 4 or 5 years.
I think it might have been more,
More than that.
Really?
Yeah, about 20, I think.
20?
Really?
The only thing I was ever told was that she was violent and schizophrenic.
No, she wasn't.
Because she wasn't
Not
violent
here.
here. Oh, no.
No, and she wasn't a schizophrenic, she was a manic depressive.
Is that what she...
Yes.
How was that controllable in the hospital in those days? I mean, if she were... You remember
had
going...
Medication.
You had to assess them and see what they were like, and then you dealt with them. And then it progressed from tablets and...
That's right.
They gave me
ECT came out.
Yes,
and that was marvellous. I
Yes.
know it's a frightening thing.
But today it's much better.
Yes.
When they first brought it out,
It was
they really
terrible
had a
then.
fit, and it took 4 nurses to hold them down.
Yes, but
Electroconvulsive therapy, or ECT as it was known, was introduced to Barnsley Hall in the 1950s as a radical new form of treatment for manic depression and schizophrenia. Patients received a series of electrical shocks aimed at improving the chemical balance of the brain. The side effects included severe memory loss.
The only time I ever remember coming here, I was, I think, about 15. And it was explained to me that I was being brought as sort of an experiment to see whether my mother recognised me. Doctor then sort of escorted me down what to me in memory was a very long corridor. And there seemed to be sort of shafts of sunlight coming in.
That's
I've got
right,
that
the window,
memory.
yes,
And
very much so.
eventually I got to, I think it was like a little alcove or something. This lady was sitting in a chair there, and he said, "This is your mother." Not at any stage did she register any recognition of me whatsoever. And the only line, this bizarre line, I just remember her saying at some point, I don't know why it cropped up, she said, "Television is dead bodies and cardboard." Because my home life was not that normal and stable and cosy, I got out in the countryside a lot and got involved in birds and wildlife.
In the absence of his mother, it was left to Bill's dad, Harry, to nurture his only child.
This was my escape route. I rapidly became proper bird watcher, as you were. I got my binoculars. And all I can say is my dad encouraged it. I don't think he understood it at all. His love was expressed in a practical way almost. You know, he organised things. He was very, very anxious that I had the education he hadn't had and perhaps achieve things and so on and so forth. He lived vicariously through me. I don't think there's any doubt about that. And I think I'm quite lucky that I didn't find that a pressure.
Bill still doesn't know precisely when or why his mother was absent from the family home. The nurses at the hospital have given him partly contradictory information about Lillian, so he's applied for her medical records from the local health authority.
Records that have been stored with county archives have been checked, and Lillian's name is not listed as being kept in archive. Lillian Oddie was first admitted age 36 on the 24th of May 1950 as an informal patient. What? And discharged on the 23rd of December 1950, home for Christmas. She was readmitted on the 14th of July 1951 and discharged the 12th of July 1960. Right. The registers do not quote medical reasons for admission. That's annoying. So I'm not able to give any further information. It sounds like she came back for a few months and it wasn't going to happen, and she got worse again, and since I have memories of her being forcibly presumably taken back to the hospital, then I guess maybe it did get to the point where she stopped coming home. She stopped coming home, I think. It's probably what happened.
Bill is no closer to solving the mystery of his mother's confinement to a mental home. One person who might be able to shed light on the matter is Bill's Aunt Marjorie, who he lost touch with until very recently.
It's only now, really, that it struck me that here is the last link. If I'm ever going to find out what really happened to my mother, then a visit to Auntie Marjorie is essential.
Marjorie lives near Worthing in Sussex, and Bill's arranged to meet her for tea.
Hello, madam. How are you doing, sweetheart? The bit, though, Margie, which I had to say, is still shrouded in total mystery to me, is how she ended up in Barnsley Hall.
That was your grandmother's
But-
doing. Because
But how did it happen?
your
What had she done? to
Because
be-
your grandmother was nagging at her, and Lillian was brushing the hearth. You know, it was a coal fire in those days, and she had a hand brush and dustpan, and she, shut up or else kind of thing.
Yes.
And your grandmother, she didn't hit her, but your grandmother told your dad.
And he, called a doctor in or somebody and said,
Yes.
this woman's getting violent or something?
No, well, she became hysterical because of your grandmother. Because she was always there was your grandmother.
I
That
know,
was the
tell me
trouble.
about it. I know.
No,
How old was Mum when she had me? It was only 41.
Lillian had a miscarriage, first of all, at about 5 to 7 months.
Which is pretty horrendous, to say the least.
And then she had a second child. Then the second one died, it was a girl, after 5 days.
5 days old.
Your grandmother wouldn't let your mother go upstairs when this little baby was crying. And she did go upstairs eventually, and she died on her own vomit. That was 2 babies that had gone. So when you arrived, Bill, you were spoilt to the extent that Lillian used to go every night and sleep until you went to sleep.
She must have been very scared.
She was. She was scared
would
of your
be,
grand.
wouldn't she?
Yes, in case she lost you. You
Yeah,
see.
right, yeah. I mean, this is unbelievable stuff. She must have been so, I guess the word traumatised or whatever, to go from, in 3 consecutive years.
And had your grandmother there all the time.
The other thing, that she was actually living and continued to have to live and had the prospect of always having to live with my granny, who in a way she could actually think that woman killed my baby. At various stages in life, I've wished I had a sister. Not a brother, a sister. And of course the irony was that I nearly did have.
This is the house where the baby died in 1940. At that time, Bill's parents lived here in Rochdale before they moved to Birmingham. Bill's come to Rochdale Town Hall, which keeps a record of all local death certificates. He's looking for official confirmation of Marjorie's version of events.
A smashing building, I'm glad it came back. Now, this is quite a moment, really. My mum had a baby the year before I was born. Would have been my sister. Was my sister, I suppose. No, I wasn't born, was I? And the baby died at about 5 or 10 days old. 5 days. 21st of January 1940. Oh my Lord. Oh wow. I'll have to question this one. So name and surname. Oh, that was her name. This is really... I don't know how you're going to... Name of the deceased in this case, Margaret Jean Oddie. Female, 5 days, daughter of Harry Oddie. Do they even mention the mother? Doesn't look like it. Why do they just put the father? It's like the mother... a baby factory. Oh, sorry, that one didn't make it. Have another. This is very unreal and very sad, obviously. You just say those words, daughter of Harry Oddie, and having a name. Female, 5 days. I just imagine what that must have done to everybody. Cause of death. It's got 1 A in a bracket, inanition. What the flipping heck is inanition?
Bill wants to know more about how and why the baby died. He's seeking help from consultant paediatrician Dr. John Walker-Smith.
It's a change from musty corridors, isn't it? Hi. John?
Hello,
Yeah.
Bob. Nice to meet you. Hi.
Hi.
Do sit down. Would you like to be comfortable there?
I'm not staying long,
Right.
unless you've got a very long explanation for me, I don't know.
No.
This is
Right.
Death certificate.
Yes, I'd like to see that if I may.
There you go. And this is what rather sadly would have been a sister. I was born the
Right.
next year. And what I absolutely have no idea where it says cause of death.
Is the word inanition. What this means here, I think, is that you've got a poorly nourished baby who may also have been dehydrated as well. It doesn't tell us anything about the actual immediate circumstances of death.
Well, I can... Okay.
Right.
You see, for a start, I have been offered a picture of the fact that the baby was crying. My mum wanted to go to it. My granny, my father's mother, said, no, let her cry, and sort of stopped her going there.
Right.
And eventually, when they did go, the baby was dead. Leading question, I guess, if anybody had gone straight in when a baby was crying, would that have saved the baby, or would something have happened anyway?
I think with the overall diagnosis of inanition, I think it's the baby's outlook. That's the chances of surviving were pretty slim at that time.
Yeah.
Today, that would not be the case. No. I mean, it was a time when infant mortality in England and Wales was significantly higher.
Yeah.
Now, if we look at the part of the country where Rochdale. Now, these are going back to the 19th century, but this is infant mortality rate in England and Wales. The worst part of England and Wales to live in was in that area there, and it was the deprivation the baby suffered in the urban environment.
It doesn't matter what the doctor or anybody else says about that baby might have died or that baby would have died. My parents would never know. My mother in particular would never know. And if she were stopped from going to the baby, I can't see how she would not have carried that feeling through her life, of feeling, if only I'd gone up there, I could have saved the baby's life. It may not be true, but in her head it must have been. My mum must have had to live in the same house as somebody she thought, if you hadn't been here, that little girl might still be alive.
When the baby died, just after the Second World War began, Rochdale was one of the poorest areas in the country. But in 1877, when Bill's Granny Emily was born, this was a thriving mill town at the heart of industrial Britain. But what sort of person was Emily? And what sort of world did she inhabit? Bill's hoping that another Aunt Marjorie, who also grew up in Rochdale, may be able to provide some answers.
You've got a family resemblance.
Oh, don't say that.
What, you don't want to be part of the family? Oh, thank you very much.
Oh, dear.
Wow. Is
Want to take your jacket off?
Yes, I do, actually. Thank you much. My granny was Emily Worrell.
Yes.
Now, the Worrell family, what memories do you have of them, or what were they like?
They weren't very communicative.
Right.
They were a bit of a distant family, you know. We weren't a close family on that side.
Right.
My father was a very hard, difficult man, and then there was Emily.
Yeah.
And if she was anything like my father, I should think she was a very difficult lady. I can picture her, grey hair and a bun, which was
That's right.
the thing in those days.
It was, wasn't it? Emily would have been a young woman in the late 19th century, long before you and long before me. And I'm just trying to get a picture, of what would life have been like in a northern town for somebody who's from a working family, really.
She was a weaver. My mother worked from the age of 12, and I think that was quite normal in those days.
Was, yeah.
She used to work mornings in the mills, school in the afternoons one week, and then reverse it the following week.
Right, so did both.
And that was from 12.
Yeah,
school and work in the Arrow Mill, I believe, and I would imagine Emily was the same, that she would work from a very early age.
Yeah.
Arrow Mill was the last mill to close in Rochdale in the late 1970s.
Today it's used as a storage warehouse.
The 1891 census confirms what Marjorie suspected. Emily was working in the mills at the age of 13, one of 100,000 child labourers in the northwest alone. With school taking up half the day, it was quite usual to work 6 hours in the mill, from the ages of 11 to 14, when full-time employment would begin.
To be honest, I don't think I've actually learnt much about Emily that changes my opinions. You know, it does sound to me as though, unfortunately, she was not a particularly demonstrative, affectionate, tactile sort of person. It sounds as though there was a lack of communication amongst the family, that it wasn't a very warm family as such.
Emily was 30 when she married Bill's granddad, which was late for a woman in that era. Bill's gone back to the town hall to find out who her husband was, a man he knows little about.
It's weird to think my granny dominated my life so much when I was a kid, and never, though, at any point did I think, where was Grandad? Who was Grandad? And it's only very recently that I've found out. What I have discovered is that he rejoiced in the rather grand name of Wilkinson, Oddie, presumably Wilkie for short or something, and he must have died long before I was born, otherwise I presume I either would have remembered him or somebody might have mentioned him occasionally. And this is his death certificate. Died 23rd of February 1927, yes, a little bit before my time. Wilkinson, Oddie, male, 62 years old. Occupation, overlooker for cotton blanket weavers. Some kind of supervisor, I suppose. Cause of death, heart failure, 10 minutes after a completed operation for carcinoma, I think it says, of the left tonsil, during which operation chloroform was administered. Certificate received, coroner inquest. There's something strange about that, isn't there? Why an inquest? Why mention the chloroform? And he died after or during an operation.
Coroner's inquests are held when there are suspicious circumstances surrounding a death. So what happened to Wilkinson?
Fantastic. Right. This is a death certificate from my grandfather. It says there was an inquest. Would that still exist, or are there any records?
The inquest report might not exist, but there'll probably be something in the local paper. We can get you the...
In the paper?
Yes, local paper. They reported incidents of inquest in the
Oh, did they?
Observer.
Oh, fantastic.
So, what date is it?
Grandad's diary.
Died under an anaesthetic. What's that one?
Ah, that sounds right. That sounds right.
Does it? Oh, you think
yes,
that's it?
Yeah, Rochdale.
Oh, yes, there you are.
Because he was an overlooker, whatever that was. Mrs. Oddie, this is my granny, the widow of the deceased, said that some months ago Mr. Oddie complained of a sore throat. It was arranged that he should undergo an operation. The operation was performed. Mr. Oddie died before coming out of the anaesthetic. The operation was for cancer of the tonsils.
Wilkinson was known to have a weak heart, and in 1927, ether would have been the safest anaesthetic to use. The problem is that it's highly flammable. As his operation involved using a powerful electric spark to cauterize the cancerous tumour, the doctors chose a safer alternative, chloroform. The downside was more strain on the patient's heart. Wilkinson died of heart failure, but the inquest into his death held that the doctors took an acceptable risk.
It's a nice choice, isn't it? You'll either die of a heart attack or explode. Now, this is quite an interesting little implication. Witness was of the opinion that the deceased throat condition had not arisen through his employment. Now, who knows, maybe this was, the company or the mill owners making sure that they weren't liable, and probably, or possibly, I don't know, the liability would have been that they had to continue to pay a widow's pension or something like that to Emily, my granny.
Wilkinson died in 1927, leaving Emily to look after Bill's dad, Harry, who was then 17. By then, the British cotton industry was in decline, struggling to survive against cheaper competition from India and more efficient technology in Japan. When the last mill closed in the late 1970s, the machinery had hardly changed in 100 years. One mill which did survive is the Queen Street Mill in nearby Burnley, now preserved as a museum.
Bill's coming to see for himself what the working conditions in the weaving sheds would have been like, and whether they could have contributed to his grandfather's death.
Inside the mill. I'm allowed to do Lancashire accent because I'm from here, so that's all right. But I'm very aware that I'm kind of, I don't know, fighting the comic tradition or something, because, let's face it, trouble at mill and so on and so forth is, at this distance, you know, is passed into sort of comedy legend. And they call it manual work, but I tell you what, I mean, if you couldn't read, you were in trouble too, because look at this. These are operators' don'ts, real thing, for the Barber warp dyeing machine. Let's estimate 10, 20, 30. There's like 40 don'ts. There isn't a single do, by the way. And this is the sort of thing. Don't let oil accumulate on contact block. Don't forget to see that stumblers are free to act. Don't let carbon dust or dirt accumulate on commutator. Don't put stretch on upper wharf frame while still in the loader, as if you would. Don't forget too much angling loading causing breaks. It does. Too much angling loading causing breaks. And you can't help laughing, frankly, because I mean, you can't write that stuff. 40 unintelligible don't do this. You say, do try and understand what it means. But no joke. When people were working here, it must have been, I say, not only tough hours, low pay, but I don't know, it feels dangerous. Hey, I'm used to loud rock and roll music, but that was heavy metal plus, wasn't it?
Well, you'll have to wait till I switch on, otherwise I'll not be able to hear you.
Oh, you just turned your ear? You didn't hear a thing. It was noisy.
Oh, well, I switched them off, yeah.
Don't blame you.
Like Wilkinson Oddie, Rex Gormley used to be a loom overlooker. He has first-hand knowledge of life in a weaving shed.
What was the overlooker then? What was your actual job?
Well, you overlooked all the machinery and you was in charge of your weavers. It was like having half a dozen wives. If they upset you and they come with a problem for the loom, you just made them wait.
Yeah.
And they lost money.
Yeah.
They lost money on their wages.
I happen to know that my granny was a weaver and my granddad was an overlooker. So he married
a weaver,
one of the workers. Now, did that often happen?
Quite a few times.
Yeah.
In fact, the old fella that taught me, his wife was a weaver, not on his set. They didn't work on their set because it was short favoritism.
That really would have been difficult, wouldn't it? Yeah. Was there a girl that you particularly had a shine on?
There was Mary.
Mary?
Well,
so called because...
The thing was, if you was working under the loom, and when I was an apprentice, the overlookers, they used to have bets what colour of knickers the weavers were wearing.
Yes.
See? And if you was weak, when I was as you under the loom, the weavers always went up, they'd stride over you, you know. So they'd say, go down to such a loom, we bet she's got such a colour of knickers on, you see. They'd have a little bet.
Should I ask why Hairy Mary was so called then?
Yes, well...
You're a bad man. I mean, it has to have been really, really dangerous, because that's what struck me. It's all right standing here now and it's kind of peaceful.
With all the moving parts that we had on, the flying shuttles, of course, hitting you in the face, you'd be doing something, and the shuttle would come straight out of that loom.
Yeah. What, shoot it?
Oh, just fly through the air, and many people got hit with the shuttle.
Yeah. I mean, that is shaped like a missile, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, look at this. Rex, my granddad had some kind of throat cancer. Now, did you come across people who had similar throat problems?
There were people who had throat cancer, but obviously nobody would specify from where they got it from. But kissing the shuttle, it left an awful taste in your mouth, and over a period of years, I'm sure that it did have some adverse effect on them.
Yeah.
You would close the shuttle,
pull it out
and it would all be in your mouth.
Right.
But it left a dry taste in your mouth all the time. And if you saw the places where they stored these things, you'd realise that it wasn't very hygienic at all.
Kissing the shuttle involved sucking in thread in preparation for weaving. It was finally banned in the 1950s because it was shown to damage the lungs. And after talking to Rex, Bill thinks it may also have had something to do with his grandfather's throat cancer.
Frankly, I think I'm totally convinced that Grandad's, like I knew him, Grandad's throat condition was brought on by the working conditions, yes. And it's quite obvious that many people suffered from working in factories like that with the fumes and everything else. And I would have thought there was no doubt whatsoever that that's really what it was, that brought on the cancer. OK, it wasn't the cancer that killed him, but it would have done.
Almost 80 years after reporting Wilkinson's death, the Rochdale Observer has published another Oddie story. They've picked up on Bill's quest and run an article asking for Oddie relatives to get in touch.
Right, Rochdale Observer, 28th of February in the year 2004. And lo, a little advert, well, it's quite high actually, up on page 9. Search on for other Oddies. And we've had one reply, that much I do know. Neil Oddie, I've never heard of him. He might have heard of me or not, I don't know. But we're about to meet Neil.
It turns out that Neil is an amateur genealogist, so Bill's family is about to get considerably bigger.
My goodness.
Good day. Nice to meet you.
So you can see the family resemblance, can't you? Small, fat, and with a beard, yes.
I didn't grow the beard specifically for the job.
No.
The latest edition of the family tree.
Where do we start? I don't know how to read a family tree. Go on, you'll have to talk me through this. I mean,
This is me going here.
This is you, yeah.
Right, and that is your grandfather, as far as I'm aware.
Born 1864. That tallies what I... Yeah, it is, yeah. 1864, born, died in 1927.
My great-grandfather and your great-grandfather are brothers.
Right, okay.
So we share a great-great-grandfather. I've always felt there might be some relationship, but I've never been able to prove it until...
Why do you say felt? As if feel some strange affinity?
The number of people in Rochdale have said, are you related to Bill Oddie?
Well, that's inevitable, isn't it,
Yes.
really, to be honest? You know, anybody
yes.
with a name that's kind of as uncomfortably memorable. I've never liked it.
I've always wanted to ask whether your second toe is longer than your big toe, because my second toe is longer than my big toe, as was my father's, and I wondered if this is linked.
So that lump sticking out, that's not your...
That's
not
the second toe.
Oh, it's enormous. Oh, well, it is just. It is just. So, all you folks watching, I'd like you to get shoes and socks off, and if your toe here is slightly longer than your thumb, we're related.
I in turn searching out every instance of Oddies that I can and making some sort of record of them.
Okay, but this far, can I borrow it at least for a bit? Come on!
So, of course you can.
Well, give it me then. Where is it? Is that
a
it?
little bit.
That's it. Look at that. That's as much as we know.
Well, that's what we've
What's
had
the
out.
map?
And the stuff.
This is
stuff
what
in
I'm
there.
after. This is what I'm after. All the secrets are in here.
Oh, I'm very pleased to have met you. I assure you, I'm delighted.
Oh, well, thank you.
From Neil's file, Bill has a much better idea of how he fits in. The man who thought he didn't have much of a family can now identify over 30 living relatives. Neil's research has also helped Bill trace the origins of the Oddie family back to the rural village of Grindleton on the Lancashire-Yorkshire border. Before the Industrial Revolution, the Oddies were handloom weavers.
This is looking very promising. Grindleton is right on the edge of what's called Bowland Forest here. And, frankly, looks more like my kind of habitat. Going from that family tree, it was pretty obvious that the family might have started here, 1710 or so, whatever it was, but then moved out of the country into the towns as the hand mills closed down. There weren't very many of them, were overwhelmed by the Industrial Revolution. It was the big move from the country into the towns, which happened all over England, of course, not just up here.
But Bill has discovered another branch of the family that resisted the lure of the Industrial Revolution and stayed behind in Grindleton.
If I get to this place and it's as nice as this, and I think, well, this is where the Oddies started out, I'm going to be cross. How the flipping heck did you ever move from here? Thanks for that, love. Ciao.
Basil Oddie has agreed to come and meet an Oddie relative, but he doesn't know who it is.
Yeah, Mr. Oddie was sat over there. Come to meet you.
He looks like Bill Oddie. How do you do?
Basil?
He looks like Bill Oddie off the telly.
That's purely coincidental.
Is it? His voice is the same as well.
Good Lord! I was born in Rochdale. Where were you born at?
Here, in Grindleton.
Yes, exactly. So you got a lovely rural setting to be born in.
Well, our branch all stayed here.
Stayed here?
More or less, yeah.
So there used to be lots of Oddies in
There were
Grindleton?
hundreds of Oddies in Grindleton.
Hundreds of Oddies? Yeah. What a terrible thought.
Bill's branch of the family is related to Basil's branch by a common ancestor 6 generations back. Basil's family were dairy farmers, but rather than join the exodus to the cities, the Industrial Revolution came to them. Staying behind proved to be a smart move when in the 1860s the railways arrived in the village, opening up a brand new market for their milk.
Oh, that makes a huge difference then, doesn't it? Because suddenly you've got milk can go in every single direction. Yeah, so over to York, over to Lancashire. And
I don't know where the milk went to, but I should imagine it went Manchester way.
I would think so. And so my family, working away in the horrible mill, were probably drinking the idyllic milk from here.
Yes.
Probably.
It had a little label on.
Yeah, it did, didn't it? Yeah, Oddie's milk. This is Oddie country.
Yes, it's ours.
Which bit do you want?
No,
I'm having that nice bit.
Oh, yeah?
Oh, yeah, okay, right. Yes. And I'm having the river.
Yeah, you're greedy.
Yeah, well, these council, you can have the council houses.
You don't want the cement works then?
No, you're having that. Cement works, all this will be yours. And that nice bit, that's mine.
Well, there's nothing in your bit.
That's how I like it. Precisely, exactly. Oddie country. What's been fascinating is clarifying some things about the family that would have affected me as a person. You know, I have particular reason to do that, obviously. Not knowing what had happened to my mum, not really knowing the background just before that, and that really does affect you.
Bill is now on his way back home to London.
I mean, if anything, I suppose to coin an unavoidable pun, I am the odd one out in the Oddie family. If I'd been born, let's say, a couple of generations before and the family were working in mill, the pressure would be such that you couldn't do anything but conform. The opportunity wouldn't be there to do anything else. So I presume I'd have been an overlooker. All generations just moved from one thing to another, and they didn't have the wealth, the security, the opportunity to really break the mould. Now, I did, and a lot of that was because my dad put me in a situation by guiding me to various schools and things and encouraging me to go out and explore and change the whole pattern of what our family did, as it were. This journey has been a real lifesaver, because one thing this is completely confirmed is that my mother was in no way negligent or anything like that, or incompetent. She was she was immensely unlucky in things that happened to her. But I can really say, you know, I'm really sorry, Mum. I'm really sorry what happened, and I wish I'd known her better, and I wish she'd known me, and I wish she'd had a better life and everything else. And I wish I could have done anything about it. That's sad. That's sad.